The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Welcome to For the Love of Words. I'm Priscilla Almquist-Olsen, co-host, and with me today is the vocalist Carina Melodies, and you have a beautiful melodious voice. Now, I first heard you at the Shoveltown Cultural District sponsored end of the year Fall Music Festival, and you were wonderful, beautiful voice. And what's so amazing about you, Carina, is that you're only 16 and you can sing like you sing. And today we're going to be hearing this beautiful melodious voice, and she's going to sing 4 or 5 of her songs that she wrote herself. Because after all, this program is called For the Love of Words, and so we always interview a songwriter. Tell me how you got started singing.
So I began singing when I was about 7 or 8 years old. Me and my friends were in like a little girls singing group, which we were inspired by Fifth Harmony. And I just got a knack for it in a way. I realized that I wanted something to have as my own. The other girls saw it more as like a group thing or just something fun to do with your friends. But as we continued to sing, I just realized it was something I never wanted to stop doing.
Okay, so you fell in love with singing. It was your way of expressing your feelings, your emotions. And who had the biggest influence when you were growing up?
So I was influenced by a lot of different music artists and songwriters. Like I listened to every genre really, and I like to draw from each genre and each part of songwriting, either if it's folk or country or R&B or soul, and put it into my songs. But I would say that having my mother as a poet and growing up listening to her poetry and her love of art, and growing up in a house that viewed art as something very important and self-expression as something that was very important, definitely influenced my growth and strength in songwriting and singing and my devotion to music.
Your devotion to music, absolutely. That's a wonderful phrase, and it's so fitting to you and the journey you're on. So you're 16 and you live in Easton.
Yes.
You're one of ours, and and we're going to follow your career. But today we're going to hear some beautiful music. Before we do that, tell me what your aspirations are. Where would you like to, if you could dictate where your music career is going to lead you, where do you think you'd like to be in, say, 5 years from now, 10 years from now?
Well, I would like to be performing in an audience of people who connect to my music the same way I do. I write my music to help other people feel understood and to, in a way, have that similar place, that safe place in my music that I have. I really enjoy performing. I love to talk to people and connect with people, so definitely performing. I will still be singing and laughing and talking to my audience and my supporters. I would like to, of course, have many albums out in 5 years, and definitely just really honing in on my love for songwriting and performing.
So your mother as a poet must have really influenced your writing. In which way do you think the influence was the greatest?
I would say her vulnerability in her writing. I know that she has told me when she was younger that she didn't feel like she could always express herself, so she would write in her own personal journal, but she would never share any of her writings or her poems or her drawings also. But her restrictiveness of her writing and of her poetry really made me feel like I know she would want me to be showing the world my love for music and my love for songwriting. And her giving me that freedom and backbone of support was everything I could ask for.
Wow. And Mama is here in the studio, and I'm sure that she's there with some tears in her eyes and lots of pride. Yeah.
Definitely.
There's nothing, as a mother, and I'm a mother too, there's nothing more gratifying when your child succeeds at, especially at an artistic, in an artistic way. Now what about your dad? Is he musical at all?
Well, my stepdad is musical.
Oh, okay.
He plays guitar. He actually gave me my signature purple guitar, which I love. It was a surprise because I had been using his guitar every day to go and learn little songs and write little tunes, and I would sit in our living room and just write away, and then he'd be like, "Can I have the guitar now?" So one day at Mockingbird, which is our local music place, he saw me looking at some colorful guitars. They were light pink, light purple, and he came home one day. I was just sitting on the couch, and he just presented it to me without asking for anything in return, just wanting to give me something to use as my own, to write my music and to learn my little tunes.
So you're using the guitar as you're creating the melodies?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Guitar and piano.
And the piano?
Yes.
Right. How old were you when you started piano?
I've been playing piano since I was about probably 4 years old.
Uh-huh.
I didn't start taking lessons till I was on and off. I took lessons when I was 5 for a year or two, and then I took them again when I was 8 years old. But my favorite thing wasn't learning what keys to play, how to read the music. It was just sitting there and pouring my heart out into the keys and just having them lead me any way that I wanted to be led.
Wow, well, that's the beauty of songwriting and poetry, mm-hmm. is that one doesn't know exactly where one's going.
Yeah.
But when you get there, you certainly have a wonderful feeling of satisfaction, mm-hmm. and it becomes a part of you, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Mm. So today you're going to be singing some songs that you wrote. What types of experiences do you choose as part of the subject matter of your songs?
Well, it's definitely hard to write music at a young age, especially since I haven't experienced all the heartbreak that I talk about in my songs, all the meanings. I haven't personally experienced any of these experiences that I write about in my music, but I take art and inspiration from either some experiences my friends tell me stories about, and I put myself into their shoes. Or I've always loved movies and television, and I realized that I could use my knack of falling into these shows and feeling like I'm one of these characters to my advantage by writing songs as if I am these characters, so that I don't have to push myself out of my own personal boundaries of what I want to experience in my life in order to write songs that can connect to people who are actually experiencing these things. So I take inspiration from just a song I hear, a TV show I'm reading, a book I'm reading, a movie I'm watching, just little things that I want to see unfolded in those TV shows or movies. Or if I'm like, there needs to be a song to explain the feeling that I'm getting from watching this experience or relationship that's on my TV. So then I go into my room, into my nice quiet space, and I retell the story in my own words.
Wow, wonderful. Now tell me, how can people see more of your work? Do you have a website?
I do. You can find me on carinamelodies.com. You can find me, Carina Melodies, really anywhere. It's Carina with a C, surprisingly. And yeah, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, Apple Music, the list goes on.
All of that, and you're only 16. Wow. Well, your generation is all about technology, and you're using it to your advantage.
Yes.
And the people who listen to you are also having a wonderful experience. They can access your music whenever and wherever.
Definitely.
So it's Carina, Carina Melodies. Is that one word?
Yes.
One word.com. So check it out. So now we're going to hear some beautiful music.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
And best of luck. You're going to be a big success. I can just tell.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Hi, my name is Carina Melodies, and the first song I'm going to be singing is my hit song, Jonathan. Jonathan, can you answer? I'm feeling desperate. I might call your sister. My friends tell me you remind me of when I was a little dancer, always tripping my own feet. Feeling lost like I'm a little kid. The world goes quiet when I'm not with him, but I need a little noise in this room. I can't be afraid, I chose this path. You look like yourself, but you sound like my dad. Oh, Johnny, the things you do when everyone leaves the room. When everyone leaves the room. Oh, Johnny, the things you do. Oh, Johnny, the things you do. When everyone leaves the room. Jonathan, I could lay here in silence, just watching all the ways you but Jonathan, can't I be interesting forever, so you can never forget me? I'm feeling lost like I'm a little kid. The world goes quiet when I'm not with him, but I need a little noise in this room. I can't be afraid, I chose this path. You look like yourself, but you sound like my dad. Oh, Johnny, the things you do when everyone leaves the room. I'm stuck inside this house I used to call a home. My brain now filled with your skipping stones. That it was shallow, it was deep. You were everything to me. I'm stuck inside this body I used to call my own. My head now filled with withdrawals of you and all the familiar things you do. Feel lost like I'm a little kid. The world goes quiet when I'm not with him, but I need a little noise in this room. I can't be afraid, I chose this path. You look like yourself, but you're sounding like my dad. Oh, Johnny, the things you do when everyone leaves the room. My next song is Too Much, which I wrote about feeling like you have too much baggage to bring into a relationship. I knew you so well, you loved me like hell, and you were ice. I melted you alive, I was hungry, pining away my whole life. I should have known it'd be easier pointing the finger at you rather than saying my whole way through and through. I waited for you to understand. It'd always be too much. I'd always pack a punch. I was saving your pride from all my too much. It'd always be too much. It'd always be too much. Painting a picture to show the trajectory of us. I should have known it was love you were seeing while I was up game planning my trust. I'll refund all our memories, refund all our stories of lust. You love me less like a woman and more like drugs. It'd always be too much. I'd always pack a punch. I was saving your pride from all my too much. It'd always be too much. It'd always be too much. Or you were never or you were never I was never too much. My next song is Lose You, which I wrote about choosing yourself over a person or a relationship. Yes, I loved you honestly, but that doesn't mean you want me. It's hard for you to say go, so I'll be the one to say no. I see someone great for me, someone who's sure of what they want from me, someone who adores my stories, and it's not you. So I'd rather lose you than wait for you to choose. If you wanna stay, I won't sit and wait. I'd rather lose you than wait If you wanna wait for me, if I'm worth the pain, baby, anything, anything, I'd have given you anything, anything. That was before I knew all you said was never true. Everything, everything I wish wasn't true. Easily, easily I'll rebuke. Love myself more than you, so I'd rather lose you than wait for you to choose. If you wanna stay, I won't sit and wait. I'd rather lose you than wait for you to choose. If you wanna wait for me, if I'm worth the pain, baby, I'd rather lose you for me. Oh, I'd rather lose all of you for me.
My next song is Flower Queen, which I wrote from the perspective of a little flower girl looking up to the bride.
I'd be a darling little flower queen. We'd do just anything. I'd have a diamond ring, and here we are collecting all of spring. We'd just be gardening, then you'd get on one knee. Don't say it's just pretend, don't say this is the end. You know I've been dreaming, I've spent enough time thinking. I've given it one more second, I've given it one more reckoning of all of our things, and I think I'd be a darling little flower queen. We'd do just anything. I'd have a diamond ring, and here we are collecting all of spring. We'd just be gardening, then you'd get on one knee. How is it so easy to think about these things? I've known you for just one day, and I'll never be the same. How can I just go on without writing a love song about someone who makes me think that I'd be a darling little flower queen? We'd do just anything. I'd have a diamond ring, and here we are collecting all of spring. We'd just be gardening, then you'd get on one knee, on one knee, darling.
The next song I'll be singing is I Can't Love You, which I wrote about that overwhelming feeling in your head when you get a crush.
You're saying, babe, you know me so well. I'm saying, is it that hard to tell? You keep me round your finger just so I can boost you up a bit, boost you up a bit. I know I'm a singer, so I'll write you one. You're saying we're just something that you do for fun, but I'm falling harder and harder. I can't love you if I can't have you. It's too much in my head, and I try to shut it off and go to bed. So I'll distance myself from you, restrain all my impromptu to stay away. 'Cause I can't love you if I can't have you. It's too much in my head. Beached at the pool, beached in my room, beached at school, thinking of you. Beached at the park, sat in a starry haze. Oh, does it boost you up a bit, boost you up a bit, the way that I can't pick to stay or go, go. 'Cause I can't love you if I can't have you. It's too much in my head, and I try to shut it off and go to bed. So I'll distance myself from you, restrain all my impromptu to stay away. 'Cause I can't love you if I can't have you. It's too much in my head. No, I can't love you if I can't have you. It's too much in my head.
Thank you, Priscilla, for inviting me to come on to For the Love of Words. You can find me at Carina Melodies on all social media, and all the songs that I performed today you can go and find on YouTube, Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon, anywhere really. Thank you so much for watching.
Good evening, and welcome to the December 2024 edition of For the Love of Words. Tonight's featured poet is Bill Alberti. Bill was born in Brooklyn, New York. He is a poet, artist, and musician who resides in Kingston, Mass. He is a graduate of Stonehill College, just down the road, Bridgewater State University, and completed postgraduate studies at the University of Ireland, Galway. He received an honorary degree from Nanjing University, China, after teaching there for a summer. He is a retired English teacher who conducts school residencies and visitations. He also facilitates creative writing workshops for local libraries and colleges. He has taught a university-level course on how to present poetry in the classroom. Interestingly enough, his students in that class were teachers. Bill has been published by Sundance Books and Science Research Associates. His poems have appeared in numerous magazines and journals, including Tide Pool, Sahara, and the Aurorian. He has 5 chapbooks of poetry published. Bill was the founder of the Jones River Writers at the Kingston Public Library and was an active member of the Tide Pool Poets. He served as a weekly columnist for the Gatehouse Media Corporation for several years, and his poetry column, The Poet's Pen, appeared in as many as 16 local newspaper editions. Bill is currently working on a large volume of new and selected poetry. Welcome, Bill.
Oh, thanks, John. Nice to be here.
I begin usually by asking the poet who's my guest how they came to poetry. But in your case, because you are a musician, I'm going to ask what came first, the music or the poetry?
In my case, it was the music came first.
Okay. And at what point in time, how old were you when the music started?
Well, my mother discovered that I could sing early on, and she would ask me to sing all the time. And then elementary school, the nuns had me in the choir. And then for a short time, I entered the seminary, and I was in the choir there. And we performed on campus. It was during the folk era. So they put a guitar in my hands, because if you were on stage, everyone had to have a guitar in their hands. And I learned to play the guitar there and sing. Poetry, a little different. I did not enjoy poetry in high school or in college. We were studying the Romantic poets, Byron and Keats and Shelley and Blake, back, early 1800s writers. And the historical references they had were beyond me. Some of the vocabulary was obtuse to me, and I just never really enjoyed it. But then it was in a late 60s that there was a poet-singer named Rod McEwen.
Oh, sure.
And he became a pretty big hit, and I started reading some of his stuff. And it was accessible. That was the key to me. I could understand what he was trying to say. I could understand the references and appreciate, the images he had and the words he had. So that kind of brought me towards poetry. And then after that, I discovered Billy Collins, who was a poet laureate of the United States, I think, for 2 terms. And his poetry is very, very accessible, humorous, smart. And that's sort of what really led me into trying to develop my own voice.
So how old were you when you started to write your own poetry?
Well, 1968, I was attempting to write some poems. And that was kind of looking at Rod McEwen. I was living in Brooklyn, teaching in Brooklyn at the time. And I remember he had a poem, Stanton Street and Other Sorrows. And I wrote, my version was Flatbush Avenue and Other Sorrows. So that was probably one of my first, yeah.
Okay.
And then at Stonehill, the Stonehill Literary Newspaper, well, actually it was the newspaper, it featured one of the students who wrote poetry. And I noticed that all the female students at the college were picking up that paper and really getting into it. I said, oh, there's something to this poetry. So that's sort of how I got into it, yeah.
And at what point in time, though, did you start to write seriously enough to put it together for your first book? I mean, you have 5 books.
Yeah, I have 5 chapbooks now, and I'm working on a big volume now.
Right. So when did you first start to put it together for a chapbook?
It would probably be around the year 2000, I think. I had to develop my own voice.
Yes.
And I think...
Couldn't use Rod McEwen's, was already taken.
No. But I mean, it's also a rhythm. I think you have to find your rhythm. And taking walks and, realizing the steps I was taking, it creates sort of a beat and your own heartbeat. And you find that rhythm, and once you find that rhythm, then the poem started to come.
Now, do you write in? Let me ask this way: when you first started to write, did you write in sort of a blank verse way, or did you try to write in meter and rhyme when you first started?
Yeah, I think most beginning poets follow the recipes, the villanelle and the pantoum and the haiku.
Yep.
You practice with those recipes, I think, until you develop your own voice, really. And I did that. Too.
So that's how you started,
yeah,
with the meter and
following
the rhyme.
some recipes. But I think, again, it was Billy Collins' influence. I read some of his poems, and I said, it's like someone wrote a beautiful poem about their mother, and you go, wait a second, I have a mother too. And you pick up a pen and try to capture your own mother.
Right. Right. So When was your first chapbook published? Do you remember what year it was?
Oh, I have them here.
There you go.
2000. Yeah, this first chapbook was 2000.
And were you fortunate enough to get gigs reading the chapbook?
Yeah, I'd put in for cultural grants and to go to libraries and do the reading.
Okay.
So I was doing that. I also was hired by the Sandwich schools to become a resident poet and work with kids on poetry. So I did a lot of work with students at all different grades on poetry, producing a book for that, with them at the end of my residency.
That's excellent.
A book of their poems
Right.
came out. Yeah.
Excellent. Very good. The Jones River Writers, is that how you got the cultural grant to read at the libraries, or did that come later?
No, that was my own Kingston, my own town library, asked if I would start a writing group, and I agreed. So I put out the word, and we had about eight people in the group. Of course, it changed over the period of time.
How long did you have the group for?
I led the group for 2 years.
Okay.
And then another person took over.
Okay. And during the 2 years that you were leading the group, did the group have scheduled readings?
No.
No?
No, it was just we would come, I would give prompts, we would write, we'd do read-arounds, a little bit of critique, in a gentle way. And they were just really kind of writing out.
The reason I ask is because I had Joyce Wilson, whom I know you know, on the show as a poet. And she was talking about the Southeast, I think it was called the Southeast Mass Poets, that she had scheduled to read at different libraries in the Marshfield, Plymouth area.
Oh, okay.
So that was why I asked about the Jones River Writers.
Well, this wasn't necessarily straight poetry either.
Oh, the writers were
Yeah.
involved in other genres besides
Right.
poetry.
It was more prose than poetry at that point.
And have you yourself gone from poetry into prose at any point in time?
I've written prose, yeah, but I prefer to write poetry.
Okay.
Matter of fact, my newspaper column, I had written. It was Veterans Day was coming up, and the editor put out an all call to people if they would send in a story of a veteran and a picture. So my dad was a big World War II hero. He fought in Africa, Sicily, Normandy invasion. So I wrote a nice piece about him, sent in his picture, and the next week the paper came out, and my father's picture was with somebody else's story. They kind of messed it. I didn't care, But I got contacted by the editor, and he said, I really liked the piece you wrote, and I'm going to feature your dad and the right picture next week, and I want to talk to you about writing for the newspaper. And I said, you're not going to like it because I don't prefer to write prose. I really would rather write poetry. And he said, well, if we had a poetry column, what would it look like? And so I designed a poetry column, and he said, let's go.
And what year was this?
I did it for about 4 years. So it was around 2006, I think, yeah.
Okay. Well, tonight, the audience at home is going to have the delight of hearing you read from those chapbooks, and we look forward to it.
Great.
Thank you so much for coming.
All right, thank you, John. Greetings, my name is Bill Alberti, and I'm going to be reading some of my original poems for you. The first poem I'd like to read is, it came to me, I was a Boy Scout, and we were at a jamboree. It was a first aid jamboree where the Boy Scouts had to put on bandages, and then we were going up against other troops, and then at the end of the contest, the judges would untie the knots and make sure that every knot was a square knot. So this poem is entitled Square Knot. Right over left, left over right, although I knew it well, in rushing to beat the clock during the scout troop jamboree, I somehow tied a granny knot. On the arm sling, of the injured first aid competition victim dummy. Our team had won the contest, but when the judges uncovered my granny, we forfeited the trophy. My scoutmaster would not look me in the eye, but my troopmates glared their disappointment. Right over left, left over right, I will never forget. My heart is still tied in that knot. I'm going to lighten the mood a little bit here. As many people have, I also have suffered from back pain or backache. So I wrote this poem after I recovered from a backache. It's called The Bad Back Blues. Yesterday I did too much. Today my back's in real pain. Yesterday I bent so low. Now I gots to use a cane. I had to see a chiropractor. Pretzeled me, gave me a pill. I went to see this chiropractor and I left with one big hefty bill. Today is not a good day, 'cause I gots the bad back blues. Today it ain't no good day. I did work I should have refused. Now my muscles all in spasm, running up and down my spine. Oh, my lower back's in spasm. I'm all twisted like a vine. So I won't lift a finger. Of that I am emphatic. 'Cause if I lift one finger, it might become sciatic. I ain't going for no x-rays. Why take unneeded risk? I ain't posing for no x-rays. I know it's bulging disc. The pain, it sure is throbbing. Feels like I'm in a vice. My lower back's throbbing. Think I'll go and get some ice. And plink it in a tall glass. Add bourbon whiskey to the mix. Then drink it down real fast. I'm be nursing my own fix. This poem came to me during the end of a winter. It's called Forever Bowed. I wish I could see bent birches as frost did, imagining a young boy swinging them down to the ground. But I know February's ice and snow and strong gales have made my birches bend low, never to stand again. Spring has thawed their bony fingers, releasing them from their icy glazed prison. But unlike the awkward arch of an ostrich burying in fear, or the graceful neck of a feeding swan, my birches' bowed, paper-spotted trunks will never record this season. They'll sweep down with every rippling breeze and scratch the back of this woodland path. Their curved spines, arched in sadness, will never right. Their boughs are bowed in obeisance to the furies of Mother Nature's winter temper. I cannot look with a whimsical eye on the speckled whiteness of these bent birches any more than I could smile at the crooked haunch of a stooped old woman. When I was young, my mother was my first reader, and the time I spent with her while we would read nursery rhymes was a very special time. And later on, being nostalgic, I wrote this poem about that special time. Once upon a time, I wished for a fairy godmother and a cricket conscience guide, 7 dwarfs to be my friends, and a Gretel by my side. I wanted to whistle while I worked, weave straw into gold, wear slippers made of glass, and never grow up or old. I wanted to ride inside a pumpkin, build a house of sturdy bricks, climb up a magic beanstalk, and be wise to witches' tricks. I wanted to sleep in a bed just right, have a long nose made of wood, sprinkle a path of breadcrumbs, and wear a Red Riding Hood. I learned lessons from the fairy tales. Never lie, always obey, do not talk to strangers, and heed what parents say. I mostly was a good boy, didn't cry or complain. I walked the straight and narrow, not easy to sustain. I miss Mom reading the storybooks, the good times and the laughter. Her magic and her love remembered, lives happily ever after. My father was a World War II hero, fighting in Africa, Sicily, Normandy invasion, Battle of the Bulge. And when he returned home, he eventually retired to Florida. And I would go and visit him, every summer. And then when he was on his deathbed, of course, I spent some time with him. He had 5 Purple Hearts, and one of them was because of his eardrums being blown out. So he was basically deaf without the hearing aids. He also had shrapnel from hand grenades in his calf muscle removed, and his arm was going to be taken off by American doctors, but they had captured a German POW who was a surgeon, and he was able to operate on my father, and he saved his arm. His arms were never the same length again, but he had full use of them. So on the plane ride home after my father passed away, I started to incubate this particular poem. It's called Losing Battle, in memory of William A. Sr. It will be hard to choke back tears, and the time is far off when I will forget this day. His suits still fill the closet, each with a war-shortened sleeve. His hearing aids lies silenced on the bedstand beneath wall-framed Purple Hearts. I'm too tired to comprehend all that has transpired. Even if stockpiled to the ceiling, no medicine could have stalled cancer's blitzkrieg. It is now my heart that has been stabbed by the bayonets of sorrow, riddled with the bullets of grief. I was sitting on the beach one cold November day and heard down the beach, I heard bagpipes. And I paid attention to it, and I started staring down the beach and became aware of a ceremony that was going on. And afterwards I wrote this poem. Small ceremony. Today is not a good day for a wedding. The southwest wind drives lines of waves to crash upon the low tide sands of Craigville Beach. Fog hangs on the horizon, and the sky is covered with clouds the color of dirty gray cotton balls. Up the beach, a distance from my slatted sand chair, I spy a multi-generational crowd of 20 or 30. They stand on the seaweed of the high tide line, huddled in silence, fully dressed for this cool Sunday. Then I hear a bagpiper tuning, and guess, a wedding of locals? How sweet the scene, how sweet the sound. But from the dead skin of that breath-filled bag, a well-known melody emerges through the pipes into the salt sea air. Amazing Grace. Surely not a wedding song. I squint hard and notice a woman on her knees bending low to console a young girl seated on a towel. The sounds of bagpipes and wind and waves fail to deaden and drown her soulful wailing. When the music stops, the silent crowd trudges back over the sand, abandoning the beach, dispersing in the parking lot. All that remains is whistling wind, crashing waves, that graceful silhouette of Madonna and Child. And strange comfort knowing someone who had cherished this place has now been cherished by a small crowd's ceremony and remembered here in this poem by a stranger. I had the fortune of accompanying my wife and I to a little vacation in Europe, and we spent some time in Prague. And as an American in Prague, I didn't speak the language and had some difficulty, particularly when we went to a restaurant. So when I came home, I wrote this poem. As I often do when we travel, I try to remember what we saw and try to capture it later on in a poem. So this one is about Prague. It's called An American in Prague. In the city of 100 spires, just off Old Town Square, I entered the Kolkovna Cafe and ordered a Pilsner Urquell. From a waitress with a smile so broad, it stretched from the Charles Bridge to Wenceslas Square. I discovered something. I'm fond of Czech women, the beautiful Bohemian daughters of gypsies, earthy and exotic, with square, organic faces, prominent cheekbones, blue eyes, flawless skin, and a disdain for hairdressers. Women of mystery who dress in dark colors, wear studded buckle boots, and brood with the alienation of a Kafka novel. My waitress returned, cast me a sly, sarcastic smirk, and placed a ginormous stein of beer in front of me, testimony to my ignorance of the metric system. Embarrassed, I thoughtlessly pointed at something on the menu, and she nodded, her universal sign for, "You don't speak my Slavic language, do you?" Music was playing, and excited to experience all this foreign land offered, I listened carefully, expecting a gypsy love song, anticipating a Dvorak violin concerto, stunned to discover Dylan's Blowing in the Wind. Suddenly, I was a teen again, living in the pre-Glasnost cold threat of commies and missiles, dreaming of traveling to dangerous places like Eastern Europe's Iron Curtain, wondering how many roads I would walk down, listening for secrets whispered in the wind. My meal finally arrived, Moravian sparrow. And I discovered something else. I'm not fond of Czech cuisine. Heavy potato soup, sauerkraut, and dumplings, devoid of colored vegetables, and as skimpy on mystery meat as their language is on vowels. I tasted everything, requested the bill, and paid in coronas, leaving my carefully calculated tip of either $18 or $1,800. As I headed for the door, I recognized another song, not by a Vladimir, but by a Lenin, and all he was saying was, "Give peace a chance." Coming home. I turned in the driveway at midnight and search our bedroom window for a light, but find only darkness. I abandon my suitcase in the kitchen, tiptoe up the stairs, linger at your bedside, and watch you dream. Blue quilt heaves and falls with each delicate breath. As I undress in the shadows, moonlight and clothing puddle around my feet. I slip between the sheets, and my mind revisits the broken bodies and spirits of each hospital floor. I see again the grateful look of the legless soldier I offered to push up the ramp. And I remember the tear in my deaf father's eye when he read the goodbye on my lips. Then, like a child lost in a crowd, I knew you were the one. There could never be another. I studied in Galway, completing my graduate degree, my postgraduate degrees. And again, at the end of my visit to Galway, I went home and reminisced on all the things I had seen and wrote this poem. Reflections on the gift of Galway. Stones and stucco, stucco and stones, block upon block and bone upon bone. Black iron grates, garden gates, hedgerow screens of evergreen. Chieftain gray sky, warlike mountain, domed cathedral, cascade fountain. Scarves and sweaters, street musicians, statue still mimes, change positions. Street line, shop stores, Spanish arches, white swan families swim the marshes. Corrib River runs Celtic fast. Salmon fishers reel in their casts. Restaurants and pubs, cobblestone street, doorway bridges where lovers meet. This and much more my heart has seen in Galway town, my Irish dream. And now you see my poem is finished. Time for some crack and a pint of Guinness. It was my mother who discovered that I had a gifted voice, and she would often ask me to sing for her friends when they came to visit. I was shy, and that was a difficult thing for me to do. I remember that there was a poet that said it's very difficult to write a poem where every line is 3 syllables. So I tried to write a poem that has 3 syllables on each line. The title of this poem is Trillable for Mother. It was Mom who believed that I had a gift voice. As a child, I would sing songs for her. Most often, her request, favorite, Danny Boy. We both knew I was shy. Our deal was I could sing for her friends from the steps leading to the attic. Once behind the stairwell partition, I could find confidence in a voice that trembled just for her. Thank you. I enjoyed reading my poetry. And again, my name is Bill Alberti, and enjoy.